This is Lambo.
That was cool. All right, top left. Well, as the red Terran. For Cascade, it is souL. The first one was so short, it actually threw me off. And the second one was so long. Gotta get back in the groove, Wardy. That's what the problem is.
We've just not heard enough, play intro musics for a while.
Did we have any at season finals?
I feel like no.
Yeah, me too. Like
I feel like there was the same one.
Yeah, I thought it was like just like the dun 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 dun, thing.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't remember being different. Stuff, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe we're just crazy. Maybe we're just too excited being in person and we didn't even notice.
Didn't notice anything about that week. I was just like, wait, I'm still in a different country? What? How's this work?
I woke up so many times in that hotel room thinking that it was a dream. I was like, what a lovely dream. We were all hanging out together. Oh, wait, it actually happened. And it's going to happen again. Such good times.
Yeah. Nice having offline events again, to some extent. Hopefully the players can join us soon.
Yeah.
Make it a real party.
I think you mean that it would be the most professional circumstances. We are professionals.
Yes, a real StarCraft party, obviously.
Obviously, a LAN party. That's what they used to call them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a bunch of nerds just hanging around. That's all we do. Don't worry.
What kind of partying do you think ZG goes?
Alcohol in my StarCraft? No. Anyways. It is just a typical opener, I guess. The first note here is the Terran slaps down the second gas. Not going to be a third CC build.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good thing to note. Obviously, Lightshade is one of the maps you sometimes see this more aggressive setup on. It's not a bad map for Hellion Banshee either. Shorter rush distance, Banshees can ping between the bases, and most importantly, sometimes the short rush distance means roaches, so going Banshees keeps that little bit safer, just in case. It's not really a map where necessarily a lot of the time. We kind of see this as, wow, that ZG. There's a third CC anyway. That's,
Oh!
Yeah, I mean, that's just a curveball. Damn.
Well, how don't I look foolish? Interesting.
I mean, you're not wrong. It wasn't a 1 gas 3 CC.
That's clearly what I meant. I just didn't extrapolate enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird build, because look how much gas he ended up flowing before you put down the factory. Now you still have a bunch of gas, like 200 of it. Everything is delayed here for the sake of what? I don't really get it. Like, this is kind of a faster 3cc than even usual, right? Because it was before factory. But double gas, like, it makes no sense.
Am I wrong, or is the player wrong?
Yeah, I don't even see what mind game you play off of this, though, right?
And he's got a super quick third gas coming down.
Is he going to play, like, hardcore mech off the back of this?
No, he's going to Starport.
Starport. Like, Raven Cyclone or something, maybe?
I'm confused, Wardy. Tell me your vast StarCraft knowledge.
I've got absolutely nothing to tell you, ZG. I'm completely in the dark. This is completely new to me.
All right. So we're a bit confused. Lambo, what is he seeing? All right. So his Overlord's at the front. It sees no supply depots at the front, which kind of gives a nod to a third CC. Mm-hmm. It doesn't see the gas because you usually don't really have to check this quickly. Maybe a bit later on to see if there's double gas faster from mech, and then nothing beyond that. So
Fusion Core.
Fusion Core. Whoa, he's bringing out such an old build and a third CC on it as well. Double battle cruiser.
I mean,
whoa, man.
It's so ridiculous. It might just work, right?
I can't believe he's doing this because, I mean, guys, just look what's not happening during all this, right? There's no Hellions for protection. There's not even that many Marines for protection. You know, it might look like a 2-1-1 if Lambo actually got in there and only scouted the Marines, which is kind of cool about it. But, you know, and that would totally throw him off. But as far as protection or aggression, he's got none of it until the battle cruisers appear. And those suckers take a long time, especially when you try to go into 3cc, 2 starport, then battle cruisers. Then they have to build.
So it's really funny because at first I was like, well, you know, this is like, I was thinking like, well, it's triple CC and he's kind of figured out it's triple CC, so then what have you gained? But actually now you think it's triple CC. Whoever then expects the double BC behind it? So what didn't seem like the mind game at first It's kind of like a twofold mind game. It's actually kind of cool. I mean, if this works, then incredible. Somehow he's affording stim with it as well, because I guess that's just what this build lets you do. Like we've been saying, it's new to us, so we're not quite familiar with the ins and outs of it all.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember, like, you know, and it was me. There was never a meta where the 2-port battlecruiser was really a thing, but there was a battlecruiser meta, and you know, occasionally we would have someone crazy go into the double battlecruisers.
3cc though?
Right? No, that is different. No, totally. But then we did also have a time where battlecruisers often meant mech. We're talking years ago, back like 2019 Katowice, and that would, you know, that would make some sense. And then we did have a time, I think Special was really the person in my mind for like opening up one battlecruiser in stim. Still, even to this day, kind of brings that out. But everything combined, the 3cc, the double port, and into bio, yeah, that is trippy.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get back into this pretty quick, as this was not a big issue, just a hotkey for souL that he had to fix up quickly. We're gonna get back on into this. So we resume game one. Lambo's still very much so in the dark, and hello, 2BC's teleport in, and everything runs away. I mean, 4 spores only just started now, to give you an idea of just how little Lambo was expecting anything along these lines. I mean, yeah, I mean, he's going to try and counter Bane Burst. It ain't a bad idea, but there's going to be Marines, and soon they're going to have Stim as well. So I'm not even really convinced about that just yet, as 10 drones are down. Queen's are still trying to chase. Overlord's dropping, and these BCs at the moment are just flying out of there scot-free.
There's even a tank in position. I mean, there's a decent number of Banelings. They'll be able to cash through, but a second tank is about to siege up as well. If Lambo doesn't go now, I'm actually... Yeah, it's... Even with going before a second tank siege, I don't think there was much promise, and he still isn't going. Battlecruiser's forced to fly away. Not even... Only now. One is kind of weak. He immediately pulls back as he realizes the tanks are there, and souL has gotten himself quite the little victory to begin this game.
This was just a real good mind game, right? A real cool build. Like I say, sometimes souL can be the guy to come up with something funky and something different, and he absolutely delivers here to a whole new level. This was beyond anything I would have ever expected. He's now building double medefacts out of Tech Lab starports, okay? Because that's the thing apparently that happens after the double BC opening. BCs go home, they'll get repaired, of course, and we can continue through from there. What's Lambo actually doing? He didn't build a Spire. Do you think that's a mistake, or do you think he is going to be okay without it? Because, of course, it's only ever going to be the 2 BCs because it's bio behind it. So, obviously, usually when you see this, it's because it's 1 BC you can get away with it. But 2, is that pushing it for not playing a Spire?
I see what you're saying. That is an interesting question. You know, when it's mech, it goes to 3, even sometimes 4. When it's bio, it's usually 1, but now we're in this in-between place. Yeah. I personally think it's necessary for Lambo. He took damage. He's totally unprepared. He's totally thrown off. I do think, you know, you kind of have to take the risk here and hope that the battlecruisers don't just bop bases left and right, and that you can at least hold on to the main engagement, which is exactly what Lambo has to do right here, right now. But the battlecruiser's not even trying to be subtle, just help. You know, face first. Baneling's still slow on creep, at least. I don't really hit very much. And souL is definitely going to be taking game number 1.
That wasn't even a contest, right? I mean, the BC just put him to such a good spot. This attack was just destined to win the game. I guess in the end, Lambo never had the chance to build a Spire. If he was building it for this, wouldn't have helped in any way, shape, or form. He just had to mass ground units, hope he could deal with the BCs. Spoilers, he was not able to. These 3 Banelings get taken down nicely, and souL is going to be able to just, well, win this out. Good target fire on any extra Baneling that rolls down this ramp. Will not give it a chance. I'd be surprised if Lambo didn't jump into that replay immediately and be like, what the heck were you doing?
Exactly. You gotta be like, just like, wait, what? Because then, so that is absolutely a build that I think he's only done once. But I also think you do have to be a little worried, you know, because it can be so difficult to scout. I guess seeing the 3rd gas with the amount of Marines would be the, you know, primo scout. That would say like that is that build. Yeah. But the, you know, one of the tricks that could have happened, funnily enough, it didn't because Lambo just didn't get that scouting. But one of the tricks that could have happened is that it would have been convinced it was a 2-1-1 3cc build, or just, you know, 2-1-1 if it wasn't for the supply depots. So now on top of like the Hellbat variations, the 3cc versus 2 base variations, the 2-1-1, anything else that Terrans have come up with that's kind of funky behind those front lines, now you also got to worry about like a double port battlecruiser build. As I said, I think it's a one-use build, but it just throws more questions to a matchup that can already be difficult for Zergs to know exactly what's going on.
You know, it's one of the things I really loved about TVZ when it hit Legacy of the Void. It became so interesting because there were so many builds, and TVZ was already a great matchup, but it lacked diversity, right? It was always 3cc, Hellions, etc. And it really changed a lot, but it feels like we're still seeing so many different ways to open in TVZ. Like, this matchup has had so many turning points in early game lately. We've been seeing Reaper opening straight to Reactor, these kind of Marine drops and stuff. It is just getting more and more difficult for the Zergs to figure out what's going on, to the point where, when do we just start building Overlord speed every game again?
Yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah.
It would have helped. It would have really helped. I mean, despite even with, there was the upfront damage the battlecruisers did, but then the way that it throws off a Zerg who thinks they've got it all under control, you almost definitely thought it was a 3cc 2-1-1 because of the lack of Hellions, and 5-minute push, but it's unrecoverable at that point if you had not realized there's that much stuff going on. And now Lambo might go ahead and get that Overlord speed. But then, Katz was actually talking about how standard souL can be. How do you prep against that? You get Overlord speed that hits your economy. Suddenly souL's like, aha, I did go for a really typical 3cc. Now you're in a worse position.
It's part of the mind games, right? And that's why it's so powerful to bring out this build game 1 and then just play a standard game 2, because if Lambo wants to be super safe, he could just be putting himself behind, that's for sure. So yeah, no, it's part of the problem. That's why people don't open Overlord speed all the time, because there are a lot of builds that are just standard and normal. A 3cc, you'd just be behind going Overlord speed. But yeah, it's tough. As we dive on into game number 2, we're going to romanticize potential for maybe a bit of a longer TVZ if something crazy doesn't happen early. Let's find out what's going to be going on, as we will be starting down in the bottom right-hand corner with the Shopify Rebellions player, Lambo.
In the top left, as the red Terran for Team Cascade, he is souL. Hello, SCV.
Oh, well, that's a very, very interesting position to begin with, right? That's, yeah.
I can tell you that it will not be scouted, Wardy.
Yeah, I mean, it will not be
100%.
scouted, but at what point is it just, you may as well build these racks in your main base, right? I know that's not quite it, but we're getting to that stage with a proxy like this one.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah, so that's very far back. Usually, we've seen it go from, kind of Lambo's third base now, near those rocks. Then that was being found out, so he pushed a little bit north to the bridge. That was being found out. And now we're pushing it way past the bridge. This 2 racks, not really going to be hitting that fast. And thus, it also is going to be hitting a little bit less hard. But I guess since it is a 2 racks, and that's really not the most committed at all of the... Oh, that was a bit awkward. Of the variations of proxy barracks, I guess just really going for the interruption of Lambo over the actual potential game-winning move. That might work out.
Lambo has been scouting for this around the bottom side of the map as well, and now he's going to see the extra SCVs showing up. So now he's like, okay, this is happening. And now he's got to respond. Triple bunker goes down. That's going to be a wall at the front as well. It's not easy to break through this because the Marine can just sit there and deal free damage to the drones. Yeah, you're probably going to be able to kill that off. And that's no cancel as well, so that is nice, but it delays it a little bit. And now you've got 3 Marines here. Titan is decent for the moment from souL, although he stops for a second. He's going to get himself surrounded, and that's going to be a problem. 2 Marines do slip away. How close are reinforcements? This is already a huge drone pull, and now full work is going down. He does lose all but one of his SCVs, so maybe that's where the opening is. The fact that that bunker will never go up, as this Overlord will go down, though, and that's a massive, massive loss early game.
That hurts. Lambo is definitely held against the 2 racks, though, so that's the good news. Now he has to worry a little bit about that potential follow-up where they just hold on to a bunch of Marines and blitz you, especially if he is, misjudging how many barracks there are, because there were 3 SCVs, but the Marine count really wasn't that high. So I don't think he is, but just throwing it out there. So if he's reading it correctly, and it seems so, he's already getting back into droning, fixing that supply block as well, then Lambo did hold. And it's the question of, was that drone pool, were the drone losses and the Overlord as well too much? Is souL happy with this? I don't know.
I think he is, right? I mean, your 3 workers behind. Your CC isn't done yet, correct? But look at the income advantage that he took, right? It was like a good chunk of time that all those drones were pulled. And there was, of course, the bunker that died, I suppose, as well. I think it's good enough to just macro out of on either side, really.
Yeah, I agree. You know what I didn't realize, and I should have, though, like, there's a couple things that would make this tricky. Obviously it was so far back, but that's the most obvious one. The second one was that a 3rd SCV was pulled, so you get the 3 bunker wall off. That was the little cool addition. Then, on top of that, back at home, souL didn't grab a gas, which you can fit in there, kind of while your barracks are building, if I remember correctly, so that you get to a factory, so you get to that safety after the barracks push is done. And in this case, souL, when I started speaking, is when his gas geyser was building, his 1 gas geyser. So he really was just, full on the mineral count, full on the Marine production, and then even, doubling down on this economic opener, weirdly enough, even though it was a T-Rex, economical version of a T-Rex, let's put it that way, and getting a 3rd CC immediately, too.
Yep. Yeah, no, it was definitely cool. I wonder if he goes no gas so you can afford the triple bunker, right? Because otherwise, if you take the gas, it's just a little bit too much mineral heavy, then triple bunker doesn't go down, and then you don't get that wall off, and obviously that was part of his plan to begin with, so I imagine that has to do with it, and then obviously plays off the back of that as well, as you mentioned, with the 3cc, etc., being mineral heavy, being able to put that to use. Cool build, cool way of mixing it up, like not your standard everyday T-Rex.
And I like this little addition, too. So he's very keen on saving his Marines, but Lambo wasn't really, he wasn't trying to get link speed that quickly anyways. And then he built a bunker, because one thing he was going to be weak to is if Lambo was getting speed and then went back to the good old days and tried to Baneling bust him, he wouldn't have had Hellions. He wouldn't have had very many Marines. It would have been chased down on the way back. So he adds a bunker, just in case. But it's actually not even necessary. Lambo is trying to just take that 2 racks face value and then macro out of it. And usually, sometimes that can get you ahead as the 2 racks is a committal. In this case, souL, with that kind of the unexpected way to 2 racks, it's like, oh, he's already on 3cc, man. He's already got 3 mules, and he's already building up that good mid-game army that doesn't depend on Hellions at all.
That's a really cool game. I'm really happy to see souL's preparation in this series paying off, and it's a shame, right? Because as a Zerg, if you prepare really well, that's great until it goes wrong before your preparations come into play, right? And that's kind of happening a little bit for Lambo. He hasn't really been able to show his game in Game 1 for sure. In Game 2, whatever he did have planned has been heavily delayed at least. And he might have to adapt it a lot based on the fact that, hey, now, you've played against the 2 racks early. You got to take that into consideration. These are the sort of things that you don't necessarily plan as much around, especially a 2 racks that has such a fast 3cc. So it feels like souL's builds are really designed to take one of Lambo's major strengths, that preparation, away from him. And I kind of love it.
They kind of talked about this, the GSO finals, but oftentimes it is a battle of preparation, and sometimes one person's preparation entirely subverts the others. It's like, they both put work into it, but then one kind of hits harder, faster, more different than expected, and it just totally negates any preparation of the other guy. It might kind of be happening here. So souL gets his 3cc down on location now, and then also is going to start up his map control. And while it is, not the fastest map control, 7-minute double drop coming in here, it is still going to be, it's the powerhouse economy behind it makes souL feel, good and comfortable about this game, even if it's not something where he's gonna, the last game, he just had to aim move. But in this game, no, not the case. But I think he can feel very comfortable with how this game went.
Yeah, the Marines killed a lot of creep tumors as well just there. That was a good amount of creep going down. He's going to really be able to maybe push that back and keep those queens pinned back. And that's going to make life for Lambo obviously that little bit trickier in general. And with a little less creep than he wants to. Gets another Overlord as well. These double drops, they're finding some good opportunities and they're making the most of them so far.
I guess what's kind of funny about a game like this, as souL slaps down a 730 4th CC, is that we are getting, I believe we could actually just kind of close our eyes, skip 4 minutes here, and just be like, oh, okay, what happened in the beginning of the game?
Yeah.
You know, we're on late game romanticide TVZ. Does it matter that there was a 2Rex that was kind of interesting? In a way, of course it matters in every stage of StarCraft. In another way, this game does go to 20 minutes like it seems like it will. Yeah, we're not talking about the 2Rex very much anymore. We're just talking about Lambo recovering, doing his thing, getting to a macro game, which he does have quite a good late game.
You kidding me, ZG? We've got to say the casting cliche. This game started with a 2Rex. Can you believe it? It's, yeah, we say that one a lot. And you're right, though. Like, once it gets to a certain stage, the minimal effects of the early game pass by, and it doesn't matter as much. This part of the game maybe won't pass by as much. Like, souL is getting a ton of damage done. 10 drones killed off. The Liberator was good. The drop is good. It's just keeping Lambo in a really uncomfortable position. He's never been able to get a worker count he wants. This Ling run by, nothing done there. Queen's being caught in the center of the map. These are all things which are just going to help so massively as the game continues. Beautiful target fire on those Bane lanes as well. Just getting some additional value before those Marines lift up and back away. souL is playing a really, really good series.
It's a nice game for him. It's the start, then gets the mid-game going well for him, all behind. Whilst doing that, getting his 4th CC up and ready, getting faster upgrades. Lambo, I mean, he's doing a great job just staying standard, you know, not buckling under the pressure. But his creep spread can't really extend past a certain points. And he's not really getting to very good upgrades or very good technology. Although, I mean, his Hive should start actually after he deals with this. His Invitation Pit is done, so I'll take it back on that technology. But his upgrades, they're not even started yet. Yeah, okay.
Nope. Yeah, just starting them now as we're going to lift up again. No Widow Mine's active here to kind of continue fire on the bottom side of this drop. Still paid attention to. He's able to lift that up and keep it for later. I mean, still will just keep on trading. When 2-2 hits, the power of that and Drilling Claws will be ready then too. This push is going to be scary, and Lambo just so far off anything, right? Like anytime you're meant to be playing just kind of pure Ling Bane, the Hive is meant to be way, way, way faster than this, and it just is an example of what happened early game and how far Lambo ended up being. Not necessarily off the 2Rex, but off of all that mid-game harassment as well.
He's in a stable enough position that I believe he will get to late game, but I don't think he's going to have very much control over it. Every time he even tries to slice off a portion of his Ling Baneling to maybe do some type of run by, they're forced to respond to drops. So he finally gets one going, but there's a tank, there's 2 tanks, there's a bunker, there's a maze, and souL is still dropping in his main at his 3rd, and even pushing at the front. So again, no creep tubers past this point. There's basically a little sign there.
Yeah. It may as well be, as we just see these Widow Mines burrowing up as well, just keeping that control. Here we go, a little counterattack. Nice to see Lambo being the one to bring a bit of counter pressure, because it feels like it's been a while since he's done anything like that. Well, it gets turned around immediately. So, nice try. It's good to see him trying, because otherwise I feel like this game continues to slip away from you, but again, just wasn't enough here yet.
Lambo gets the Hive and then actually adds on a Spire, so that the intention to go into a greater Spire may just be there, but it's going to be quite late. souL is going to be on 5+ bases with Ghost, with Liberator range. It was a bit late to maybe starting his 3-3, so the upgrades are starting to get closer again. But yeah, I don't know, Lambo, it feels like he is surviving, and that is his current, job. It's his current expectation is to survive, but he's got to get something on their side of the map to really interrupt souL's momentum.
Yeah, I mean, as long as souL throws, it's all well and good surviving souL throwing units at you like this, but these trades are pretty good for souL, and he's obviously just expanding, as you mentioned, and just got a good economy. Lambo just can't do this forever. He eventually just gets worn out, and he's adding on a Spire. Is he just going to try and go like Broodlords or something? What else do you really do with that? I mean, Corruptors to deal with the Liberator count, I suppose, might just be the initial intention. But it feels bad if your only addition off the Hive is going to be Corruptors for a while. I mean, that just doesn't do it for me in this game, considering the position. So, yeah, right. I don't know. It just feels like he's in trouble.
No, it feels terrible. Like, you're not in a position where it's been back and forth, or you're both meeting in the middle, and And getting Corruptors is that natural next stage, supported by the way the game has gone. No, it's very unsupported right now, but he is, though, I guess, cognizant of the fact that souL is probably outpacing him, would be the good word for it. Like, he's probably getting to Liberators, and so he is going into Corruptors. It's just going to be damn difficult to use them, again, nothing but defensively. They don't give you any wriggle room. They don't counter. They don't harass. Not really. So it just it points to Lambo just trying to survive, which he could do, especially with this wrap round forcing the lift off. Another thing the Corruptors could finally punish, at least to a certain extent.
You know, pacing him is a good way of putting it, because it really is that case where usually you'd go Ultras and then Libs come up to fight the Ultras off or hold a bit better, and then you get the Corruptors up to fight the Libs. But the fact that he's already getting Libs to the point where they're going to be a problem that you need Corruptors and you never even got your Ultras out, yeah, it's just like you say, outpacing him a little bit in the way that this game is going and the stages we're getting to. The thing is as well, late game is souL's element, right? This is just where he loves to be. He will play for late game every game if he can. And as Double Ghost Academy comes down with one already in production, we're going to start seeing nukes lining up. And yeah, just souL getting probably happier and happier as the moments go by, because, like I say, he loves this stage of the game.
And he's in such a wonderful position, you know, against other Zergs or in different scenarios more likely. Hold on, we got a big engagement.
Nice.
Looks like it's not going to be picking up quick enough. Loses quite a lot, so nice for Lambo there. But to finish my point, you know, in other situations, Lambo's creep spread is at the 50% mark on every side. He's severely lacking in the bottom left. You know, he's had a couple of run-bys do some damage. He has the options of multiple tech choices, and he's trying to maybe push a little bit. But no, Lambo has just survived. He has finally, I think, found a decent amount of breathing room. Like, souL has actually been pushed all the way back, and Lambo is finally going to try and do something. Immediately pushed back for it, but at least he got the opportunity.
At least he got the opportunity, but it feels like that's all he's ever going to get, right? How do you really go much further across the map than this right now? It is just genuinely really difficult. It's tough, and that's, again, all because of how souL's played this out. He's doing a good job of it, and it's keeping it up, even like this, just a drop or two, pitting some Corruptors back, maybe taking Lambo's attention away. I'm going to try and launch down to this bottom left-hand side. souL is in no immediate need of this base, right? This would be base 6 for him, and he's also got CCs aplenty top side of the map, so he can take top side bases as well. So it's nice that Lambo denies that, but it's not like it's a base that's going to hurt souL in the immediate future. It's just a convenience for Lambo to not fall further behind.
It's only difficult for the Terran when that is one thing leads to another. I lose the bottom left and I lost the top right to harassment, then you just hit my main or something like that, right? But if there's only one thing going on, souL's totally prepared to deal with that. And he's also now kind of consolidated with Liberators, with Ghosts, everything here, and is pushing mostly in one position because he doesn't need drops of 16 units anymore. He can go for harassment with nukes, which is exactly what's happening. Lambo checks all of his bases, sees where it's coming in, but still has to react. So let's remember to put back everyone on gases, and then has to worry about a lot more nukes in the future.
Yep, and it's just an annoyance you have to deal with all game long. These Bane's going to go rolling forward. It feels like there's only Banelings there, though. And the problem with only Banes is, of course, that, you know, if they're just being targeted, it's generally not a good trade. You want Lings to take the attention at first. That Ghost just about manages to sneak out of there alive, so credit to him, keeping himself going. Yeah, Lambo comes back around the right, cleans up this Ghost. And so just going to scan top right and see that that base is up. Obviously, the name of the game at this stage is basically just, can I keep the Zerg off of the bases and off the economy? Because eventually I win if I do that. So just setting up and figuring out what positions he does need to defend against.
We're playing a pretty damn fast game, constantly dropping, constantly pushing, harassing, and even dealing with any harassment that does come his way, even canceling that command center. It's an excellent game by him, but Lambo is starting to show his strengths as well, taking more than one engagement, actually getting on their side of the map, and finally getting some expansions, also while dealing with the nuke drop. So this is the type of series that we expected. Both players really showing that they can be, are usually at equal skill, and souL even dips down in supply. It's not like he has an incredible bank, because he has been trading, and that means that this planetary going down, it's a step, it's a start in the right place for Lambo.
Yep, no, it's definitely the right kind of idea. Bio units showed up now. Widow Mines trying to burrow is going to get a little bit chaotic here. Some of those Widow Mines do okay, but some of them also double up in where they're striking, which is a bit of a shame too. Some drones going down in the background of all of this, and both players have money to rebuild off of this with as well. You know, one thing I kind of worry about for Lambo is that he's got 13 corruptors, and that's great. But what if those corruptors just don't have much of a use anymore? Like, yeah, they can fly around and caustic spray. And okay, they can always hunt down medevacs. But there's a point where it's like, do you really want 13 corruptors to be doing that? Well, not necessarily. And Lambo is just very much so stuck on what is essentially Lingbane Corruptor. It's kind of a mid-game army, not one you'd see a lot of the time, but, you know, it is mid-game focused. That's what I really think he needs. He needs to win a fight somewhere and then really do something with it as all-out warfare breaks out around the map. Run-bys going everywhere, CG.
Lambo is certainly using the mobility of his army. He's not kind of bogged down by Hydras or even Lurkers, although they can get speedy in the late game. And he just struck in like 3 different places. souL, though, finally dealing with everything, although losing a bit here and there, has consolidated his group, done a little bit of a counter, got a hatchery in return, and still has that big army. They both deplete their banks because neither one of them were on something, big there. And souL is even going to lose his last dredges of bio to the massive Baneling. I mean, Lambo. Mobility and also a bit cheaper than, again, maybe a late-game Broodlord army or a late-game Lurker army, is starting to find some of that back and forth that was so desperately missing from the mid-game, late-game. Certainly a highlight of this Zerg player, but souL is standing toe-to-toe with them, getting another base at the top right, perhaps to be focus fire, I think, and he scouts the Infestors. And that is going to be a hatchery killed. A nuke also going down. Is Lambo paying attention? No, the drones! The drones are actually coming over here! Where's the ghost? Oh my god.
No.
Okay, they passed by it.
He sees it. Ooh.
Jesus. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was, I mean, honestly, that could have been worse. 11 drones feels like he wasn't actually in that bad a spot, all things considered. Yeah, Lambo just about escaping with that one, but that's again that distraction that souL can apply. He shows up over here. There's no ground units, so those drones were kind of ripe for the picking, but they turned around quickly, not giving souL enough of a chance to get on top of them. And now we do have this Bioforce canceling this base again, and again, you're essentially keeping this to 5 base against 5 base. And, when you look at resources lost and you consider where everything is at, that's going to benefit souL if they end up mining off the same amount of bases. souL has been trading better.
That's a very good point. That's actually something that's really going to be coming into question. 20 minutes in, and it's actually been a slugfest for the last 6. And before that, Lambo was just suppressed, basically. He hadn't really taken the map like a Zerg would want to. So that is the natural next step in TVZ, worrying about the resource. Oh my god!
Wow.
Oh, he meant to drop the changelings, and he just detonated like 30 banelings.
Yep,
maybe 20, but still.
That's kind of not meant to be the play, guys. That's not a thing. I mean, in a game that's so cutthroat as this, that is a deal breaker as well, right? Because now you look at what's set up on the map. 5 banelings on the map. Yeah, you just got to Broodlords, and that's brilliant, but suddenly you don't have your main form of splash damage to force those Marines back. And it's a completely different story again. souL is nuking, or was nuking on top of his army, if I'm not mistaken. That was also interesting, as maybe setting up a defensive nuke in case he got jumped on. Now trying to think about poking up here. Of course, souL doesn't know that Lambo just blew up all of his banelings, so I guess that's something as he EMP drops. There's only that one infested there. He hits the Overseers too, although that's not really something you're kind of in love with removing the energy from.
In fact, that was the only thing he got, but there was an infestor, yeah. That is the intention. Could see that play a bigger part later on. Constant scans ahead if he decides to take his fight to this area and stick with it. Lambo is really sizing up the army as well as he possibly can. I mean, because he knows that that's not all of souL's army, but also because the rest of Lambo's army is very slow. He's on 12 Broodlords, 10 Infestors, and those Lings and Banelings that were there and have now been cleaned up was the only thing that wasn't Broodlord or Infestor. So that means that Lambo, he was on such a speedy, tradey composition, is now just fully on a slow, I hope this goes perfectly composition, which it can. The Infestors fungal the Ghost, the Broodlord count is nasty enough to take care of everything else. But can he actually get that perfect engagement? And can he, survive having been hurt in the economy?
That's difficult as you're going to be seeing Ghosts and Vikings coming through. Big fight coming up. Big fungal growth after you land on the Ghost. Removes the ability to hit, of course, those snipes. But then the EMPs came down and the Liberators show up. They're going to start sieging, trying to kill off these Infestors. It's kind of a weird fight as the Libs get cleaned out a little bit. There's a few Vikings still left over. The ground force is being cleaned up. souL is pushed away, yet it still feels like Lambo traded very badly to make it happen.
Yeah, it was a very awkward fight, wasn't it? I thought the Liberators
Yeah.
are actually going to be pretty hype. They didn't really end up doing too much, but they probably
know.
shouldn't have been. Yeah, we are entirely on Broodlord Infestor. I had actually really not realized how much he was sneaking out mostly Broodlord Infestor. But he had gone from like the 5 Infestors to 16 now. And of course, he's lost Broodlords, who's back down to 6. So not a very powerful, a lot more spellcaster base of a composition. And if there's Infested Terrans, Wardy, and they got upgrades, I'd be like, this is perfect. Back on with Liberty. But, you know, Fungals being really the only option. I mean, is Lambo's army even good anymore?
I kind of feel like you get to a point where like you have so many infestors that it doesn't make a difference, because if 4 of those infestors are getting EMP'd, like 10 of those infestors are getting EMP'd. So I don't think it feels like you're having like 15 infestors in the hope that 1 or 2 escape EMPs, and it's like, cool, those are my 2 fungals. Broodlords carry this home. I mean, it's just rough. I think it maybe makes sense based on the situation he was in. You got to try something, but souL's playing well against it. He's hitting those EMPs, and he is not letting Lambo kind of get any spellcasting off that would change this game. And now souL basically has command centers all over the map. They're starting to just kind of, you know, be the creep spread of this TVZ.
Yeah, right? It's really overtaking the map. Absolutely can't blame Lambo for finding himself in this position. You know, as cool as it was, as hype as it felt when he started to get some action on the other side of the map with that Ling Baneling composition, you know, you have to move away from it. And it is going to just be super inefficient as you are still not on as many bases as you would want. So this made a lot of sense to get here, but the actual balance, this nuke shouldn't hit anything. The actual balance of the units perhaps wasn't there. The engagement didn't go as perfectly as, you know, one would hope. It's difficult to against a souL, a guy who's, you know, very comfortable in this position. And I mean, look at this. I mean, he's done a couple of things that I like. The missile turrets are really, you know, they're cute, but they're also helpful. He's actually built Vikings, which, you know, if Nathanis was here, I'd be like, look, they work. But honestly, Nathanis is usually right. Like, Vikings can just be a bit lulzy. Like, why would you build them against someone who has fungal parasitic bomb? But I think souL's also recognized, like, yeah, you don't have very many corruptors. You don't have a lot of Vipers. Or if you do, I am totally capable of EMPing you. So the Vikings are once again the answer, alongside the Ghost. So many answers to souL's, to Lambo's composition.
Yep. Yeah, it's just... I mean, the reason souL slows it down is because he could do with just building up a bank. He knows he's going to build up more of a bank than Lambo will, so time is his friend just in case this one fight swings the way of Lambo. He wants to have the ability to rebuild off, you know, the back of it, right? So that's kind of what we're sitting for, is just see Infestor sniped here, Broodlord sniped there, a couple of libs going to find a queen. I mean, it's just a standoff on the bottom side, but it doesn't need to be a standoff anywhere else as far as souL's concerned, and Lambo's army isn't fast enough to be anywhere else.
Exactly. Can't do anything else. The Corruptors can't leave to go pee on a building in the top right because they need to protect from the Vikings. The Infestors, again, if they had Infested Terror, could do a couple of hit squads, but we're not at that meta. It's not this patch, guys. So you're just literally stuck here hoping that the Terran is so inexperienced in this type of game that they make a mistake, either compositionally or they push when they shouldn't. And that's just not... souL's not weak here. He never has been.
No, souL knows exactly what he's doing. He knows what he's playing for. This nuke is probably going to force the spores back. The Broods are thinking, let's go ghost hunting. It's actually sat behind a missile turret, so I think it's better just to pull those spores away and give up the slight bit of position that you've got there. I mean, Lambo, right to stay in the game. Just, there's only so much he can do at this point, and it was very much so more hoping that there is a mistake from souL more than what he can do. Like, yeah, the abductor's nice, the attempt to fungal a ghost is great, but it needs to be a major mistake from souL. That is how this game ends in favor of Lambo, if it ever would.
I love that souL's getting all these upgrades, 3 more factories, 1-1 on vehicles, because he had only gotten the armor. Or vehicle and ship, rather. So he's really setting up possibilities for the late game. Even getting Yamato. We are going to have, I guess, the final engagement as Lambo decides to take it while he can. And Fungals do go down. Lings and Banelings coming from who knows where. As souL, also a bit surprised by this, is forced to retreat entirely. Does cloak his ghosts, and there's no Overseer close by with all the missile turrets that were put down. So he's going to save those expensive units. But Lambo pushes that back. Gets a little bit of breathing room, but to what end? Does he get a base from this? No. Does he take away all of souL's bank? Not even. So what does that even really mean for Lambo's overall game?
Means that he's still running out of time, right? He's got 2 bases mining on this 6 o'clock position, but he doesn't have anything upper right. souL's mining top right, bottom left. So yeah, I mean, it was nice. It was a good attempt. It just isn't going to be enough in the end. And now, souL probably just says, okay, well, I'll just be a little bit more careful about this, right? You know, if you're going to make Ling Bane, a couple of libs, sieged up, I can actually help a lot against that sometimes. The Thors, maybe even just to tank a little bit, maybe get the Brutes from a bit further out. Maybe just relying a bit less on, you know, whatever the Ling Bane's meant to be good against. But, yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, it was good because Lambo definitely felt as though he caught souL a bit more prepared for just a straight-up Broodlord Infestor and not so much the Ling Bane. Now the Ling Bane is something souL's got to think about. The problem is with the Ling Bane is it still just isn't efficient. While it could maybe surge forward and kill an army, in killing that army, you're probably not going to have enough left to counterattack or anything, or do anything you need. That's really sad for the line here.
It's, you know, you take out the army. It was a, you know, trade. You take out a planetary. It's a trade, one that does not favor the Zerg, but it's still nonetheless required. Like, he's got to do something else besides just wait for souL to adapt and eventually kill him. So he does take down 14 SCVs and a base, and then as he does it, another command center floats over the Lings as if taunting.
Well, souL's just like, he realized that, you know, this is just a trade out, right? You know, CCs cost money, so does Ling Bane. We can do this all day. I've got more bases, I've got more economy. This would be big if he was also denying the bottom left, but the fact the bottom, you know, the top right is meant to be his base. That's why this is just never still going to be enough for Lambo. You know, he's fighting inefficiently over a base he's meant to have. Big fumble growths go down as the Vikings try and take part in this, but they're not going to have too good of a time, really. So once you get these ghosts back into play, that's what's missing. The EMPs not landing, the fumbles coming through, and just so many of these snipes not allowed to go off at all is what kind of keeps Lambo in these fights.
Oh, Jesus.
Wow, the nuke out of nowhere.
Yeah, I was wondering where I could honestly not see what the nuke ghost was, and I was worried that souL was going to run into his own nuke, but nope. Takes down the stack defense, takes down the infestors, takes down the broodlords, and that is that. souL does, after 30 minutes, take 2-0